Good morning. This is Judy from Artistic Artifacts in Alexandria, Virginia. Welcome to our Facebook Live this morning, Saturday. And I kind of, every once in a while, forget that there's some really cool pattern stitches on our BERNINAs. I don't know, does anybody else ever forget? I just get hung up in the piecing mode or the sewing mode and just do a straight stitch when there's really amazing things that we can do. And then if you add evaluating your needle size and evaluating the type of your thread that you have, then you have some real options. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I do have a couple of announcements. We had a little hiccup with our coupon this Wednesday. You know, those are kind of, we do have hiccups, we're human. And so we have extended the sale for our, I know I'm not supposed to call them jelly rolls, 2.5-inch strips, pre-cuts, that you buy one and then you get a second one at 30% off. So that has been extended. That is in the store sale and on the web sale. And there's great books about using those pre-cut strips. This is a quilt that was done by Chris and Tula's Fabric, and slightly biased free pattern that is on her website that talks about how to cut it. But I think it's really cool how it just kind of shifts the colors and creates something more than to the 2.5 strip. So that's there for your inspiration as well as to reinforce that we have extended the sale to Friday. So sorry. we really, usually you guys let us know very quickly and we didn't catch it on ourselves. So we want to apologize for any inconvenience that may have occurred and hope that you take this opportunity to, by extending the sale, to shop for some pre-cut rolls. All right. We are getting closer and closer to the launch of our new website. We have some really exciting things, a little bit of an update for our logo and our look, and so that's coming. It's a couple of weeks. We did put an announcement on our website and in our newsletter. If you use the wish list on our current platform, it will not transfer to the new platform. So buy your stuff off your wish list, ask your friends to buy you gifts ahead of time, write down your list, print it out, take a screenshot, because that will be lost when we transfer to the new system. Just didn't want anybody to find that be a surprise. And while we are implementing our new website, which we'll get it up and running so that you can continue to shop, and we don't expect to miss any time, be down at all for that, but we will need to work on a lot of products that we want to keep adding to the website. So we are going to take a break from comments sold until January. So our live shopping is kind of going to be on hiatus. So again, those of you who support that platform for us, we really appreciate that, and we will relaunch or pick up where we left off in January. So I think that is most of my announcements. Sharon will catch up on some and put them in there if I've missed any of the announcements. Kyle, do we have any questions or anything so far?
Some people are having feed issues. I'm going to say that you guys should be refreshing your own pages. We have great connection on here. Chris says, good morning from the beach.
I want to be at the beach.
And we have lots of hellos from all over the country this morning.
Great.
Thank you.
Are we on Wi-Fi? Are we on?
We're on Wi-Fi.
We're on Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is working today.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. Those of you that have been with me for a long time knows that technology is a little bit of a challenge for me, including whether the Wi-Fi is working or not. But we punt. We're adaptable here. We make it happen. So Kyle will watch the feed and watch the connection to make sure that we're good.
Oh, you got a compliment on your top.
Thank you. Thank you. It is going to be 75 degrees. Last time I checked, we were in October, fast approaching November. Very, very unusual weather, so I had to pull my summer clothes back out. So here we go. Okay. All right. So Artistic Artifacts has chosen to sell WonderFil Specialty Threads. I have been working with these threads and a partner with the company for probably over 10 years now. And I find that they are very high quality, very easy to use if you're using the right needle and you have the right tension on your machine. Now, I never change the tension on my BERNINA, which we will be using this morning, a BERNINA Kaffe 770 Special Edition, which are still available for purchase. They are out there. We've all been googly eyes over the 790 Pro, but this is a really nice machine as well. Missing a couple features that the Pro has, but it's got some really special decorative stitches, which is one of the reasons why I chose to work with this machine today. So, specialty WonderFil threads, and they are one of the reasons why I purchased this product is because they are very invested in education. They have a television production video, they do videos, they do information, they do lives, all kinds of things that help you learn about their thread and why it's different. We have this brochure that when you place an order, if you want to ask for it, you can put it in the memo notes for the moment. It's free, but it's invaluable. I actually make sure that I have one. So what it does is shows all of the threads that WonderFil supplies. And there's quite a few. We can't even carry them all, but we have picked in, some of our favorites and have come there. So this little pamphlet tells you the size of the thread, the suggested needle, which is usually 100% right, how to use it with a long arm if appropriate, how to use it with a domestic, or whether it is a hand stitching, and what needle you use for hand stitching. So this is a really awesome tool, and I find that their threads are very high quality. So that's why we use and sell WonderFil threads. The other part of this is working with your BERNINA. So we have threads, we have patterns, we have different sizes of threads, and what does it do? I'm going to back up a minute and show you a couple of resources that I think are very good and worth having in your library, especially if you are a BERNINA owner. I think the information in this book of stitches, would also be appropriate for a non-BERNINA owner because it talks about the type of the stitch. So many of our sewing machines come with stitches that, let me see if I can show you. It talks about usage of stitches, like what's the hemming stitch? What is the, how do you sew on linens? How are you sewing on knits? And it talks about the best feet that are available for what you're doing and the purpose of it. So I'm just going to try and give you a little bit of a snapshot to that today. But these are available resources. The other one that we have is called Threads. This book has been published. Liz Kettle, you know, is a very good friend of mine. She's got several books that were published 5-10 years ago that I still feel very strongly that should be in everybody's library. This is the one about threads. You can actually go through this book to experiment with threads, thread sizes, thread types, your feet, all of that in here, and it will guide you through making samples. And you write on them, you say what you used in the bobbin, what you used in the top, what your needle is, what did you do to the pattern stitch. This is going to take you to what I consider the arty side of thread. So this is another recommendation. We have it, we carry it, and as I said, I think everybody should have it. This is a new book, and I was really kind of impressed when it came out, and hopefully next year, starting in January, we're going to work with some BERNINAs and some stitches and some threads based off what's going on in this book. So this is stitches, pattern stitches, and if you can see how she's used them in here, it's really quite nice.
There's a little bit of glare. There you go. Thank you.
All right. This is a new book. This is, as I said, we have some plans for this book next year that will be occurring in the store. So those of you who live locally could hopefully join us. We are planning and confirming our classes and our programs for next year. We're working on that the last couple of months of the year. So look for those to come out as we get them up. And hopefully you'll find some things that interest you or challenge you, and we can draw you in. Okay, any questions about the books? Nope? Okay.
You have a few people out there who have them.
Have them. Okay, that's great. Good, good, good. They've heard my spiel before. All right. Now, let's talk about thread. And I've picked 3 threads to talk about today. One is a basic weight, which is going to be WonderFil 50 weight. Okay, so this is kind of your, what I would consider a quilter's 100% cotton all-purpose thread. Very nice. Double gassed, which means that it's lower lint than the competitors out there. So this is all-purpose cotton. Then we have 12 weight thread. And I'm trying to get colors. This is going to be really hard for him to do, but we'll get some sizes in there. This is 12 weight. In your machines, you need to use a 100 size needle, 12 weight in the top, and 50 weight in the bottom to use this stitch. And it is very carefree. Very nice to do, lots of pattern stitches. Think about if you're quilting a quilt and you put your walking foot on and you take a little curved stitch and you stitch your quilt with this size 12 bossy thread. It's really going to pop. It's going to give you some texture. It's also going to give you some extra color. So that's the threads that we're talking about now, is what's going to add color to mine. There's a whole nother line of threads that talks about what if I don't want to see my color and I only want to see texture. We'll talk about those another time. So the next thread, which is also a 12 weight, is called Glamour. Now, I know I hear a lot about frustration with metallic threads. Well, this is shiny, it's sparkly, it's very nice. It is very easy, again, to use with the right needle. You're going to use a 100 size needle, you're going to use 50 in the bottom, and you're going to have your 12 weight thread on the top. And I will tell you that that is, for the threads that we're using today, I have kept a 100 weight needle, universal, Schmetz, in my machine and not changed my needle at all, and it has worked with all of these threads. All right, the other thing I'm going to throw in there as kind of a surprise is this is Alana, and this is a 28 weight. It looks to be wool, so a lot of you are working with wools now. I look at hand stitching this. I don't think of putting it in my machine, and it works really, really nicely on the machine. Again, with those combinations. It is important that your combination of thread on your bobbin, on the top, and your needle all work together. If you're having a problem, if your thread is shredding, your needle's too small. If you have something, a tangle in underneath your fabric, your bobbin, something is not threaded correctly on the top. Your bobbin needs to be wound correctly. So all of those things work correctly, and the machine does the work. It's really nice. Any questions? No? Okay. Anybody there?
Yeah.
All right. So the other thing is to play with your threads and your decorative stitches. I don't get to play very often. Normally, I sit down at my machine and I go, boom, that's my purpose. I got 10 minutes and I get it finished. Well, okay, sometimes I don't get it finished in 10 minutes. But if you experiment with some of your decorative stitches and these threads, you're going to be able to see the differences. So this is a pattern stitch that is on the 770 Kaffe Special Edition. So let me see if I can match them up for you so you can see. So the top one is actually, what is the top one? The top one is a 60 weight. Yeah, I threw that in there too. That's Alfina. So that's an Alfina. I just wanted to see what it did, nice and clear, because I've never stitched with it. This is Alana, which is this wool-like thread. This is Glamour, which is what I was talking about. This is a 12-weight metallic. And I did that for these two are Glamour. This one is 12 weight. And this one is a 50 weight. And they come in variegated, they come in solids. All of these are options for you. But can you see the difference? And this is the same stitch. I didn't change the stitch at all. It's right out of the machine. No changes, no tension adjustments, nothing. I did nothing to the stitch except for put my foot down and sewed with it. Can you see the difference? Kind of interesting. Okay. The next thing, and I know in mastery class and most of the sewing, they tell you to do a stitch out. Well, one of the selling features on sewing machines that you go from the lower end to the higher end is the number of decorative stitches you get. So it could take a little while. So even if you did it for a half of the number of decorative stitches you had, and you tried 2 different types of thread, that would still take you a while, and it would be okay, but it would be good. So those stitch outs are really important because it's going to challenge you to use them. Again, I'm mostly a quilter, but I can see all of these pattern stitches being used on garments. They absolutely will work. You do need to know that whether you're quilting or a garment maker, you have to have some type of stabilizer behind a pattern stitch. So for this one, it was just some embroidery stabilizer that we had in the drawer, Kona cotton. But most of the time, I'm working on 3 layers. I recommend that you use the walking foot for that. If you don't have one, you can try it. These machines come with dual feed, but the dual feed will work for 3 layers. But if you're doing a big piece, I think it's better for you to have the even feed of the walking foot. That being said, this sample is 3 layers. So I used batting. Okay. So on this one, we did some other things. So this is a Kaffe special pattern stitching. And so this is a 100 size needle, 12 weight cotton in the top, 50 weight cotton, no adjustments. So this is right out of the machine. This is polyester, 40 weight, which we'll talk about on another day. This is 50 weight in the top and 50 weight in the bottom. Then I took the 50-50 with the 100 needle, which you don't really need a 100 needle, but it didn't hurt anything. And I squeezed and I reduced the pattern. So you can see this is how it came right out of the machine, but then I'm working with my dials. So I'm reducing the pattern. Then the next one is I'm elongating the pattern. So I've elongated. So all of these from here to here are using the same thread, these three, sorry, and manipulating the pattern within the machine by just turning the size dials. Okay? So then I go to the Glamour. So this is 12 weight in the top, 50 weight in the bottom, 100 size needle. Then we went to, this is another Kaffe program stitch. You see the red? That's the same one. Right out of the machine, elongated, reduced. All the same thread. This one is another machine difference. So squigglies to quilt, fill in a pattern, fill in some space. This could be a really easy way to do it than trying to do free motion stippling, but that's okay, it's just an option. So this is Glamour, Glamour stretched, Polyfast, Polyfast reduced, Polyfast stretched. So I manipulated the original pattern there, and so it adds, see how many differences there are. Okay, here we go. This is another pattern stitch. So this is 12 weight in the top, 50 weight in the bottom. You can see I made my notes on the sides here. So this is a really cool pattern stitch. This would look great on a border of a machine, of a quilt, or around some stitching on your sleeves or your neckline. So here is 12 weight cotton. 12 weight cotton, I stretched it. So this is right out of the machine. This is stretched, this is scrunched, this is Glamour, this is 50 weight. I know if you look at just the difference between this and this. This is really bossy. This adds to your patterning in whatever you're doing. This one's okay. This is what we're used to. This is what we see all the time and probably what most of us reach for. But try a larger thread. It's really cool. This is another pattern stitch. This is a variegated cotton thread, 50 weight in the top, 50 weight in the bottom. This is 60, which is the Elfina, and then this one is 12. So this is just an example of experimenting with the pattern stitches with different size threads. So are there any questions, Kyle?
Got a few of them.
Okay.
Some of them aren't entirely related, but that's okay. Are you always using a 100 needle here?
In everything that I did and showed you today is a 100 needle, and it's a universal needle, 100 universal, which we sell and have available to you.
And then does WonderFil keep the same color number across the lines of products?
Oh, I don't know that. I would not assume that. I don't know. I will have to ask Andrew.
Going back. Do you ever use SF101 on the back as a stabilizer?
I'm not very knowledgeable on stabilizers. I'm learning. I don't know all the names, so I don't specifically know about that stabilizer. What I can say, if it works for you, keep using it. We sell OESD stabilizers here in the store because it's part of the BERNINA group, but I don't get into a lot of stabilizers. I'm getting better, but I don't know that brand name. But if it works for you, keep using it.
had one question about L890s, I believe. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
It's a little farther back. Oh, yeah. Do we have any L890 books for projects? Or do you know if they exist?
Not that I'm aware of specifically for that. The BERNINA Overlocker Serger book is very leaned towards those airlock air threading machines. Project books, I'm not sure. I'll have to look through that book again for you, and we can do a post on it. But really, any serger project book would work. You're just going to finish faster because you get an L890 and you're air threading. So, and there's some awesome things to do with decorative threads, which the 12 weights, the 8 weights, there are some really cool things you can do with the L890 and decorative threads and edges. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. The head of the Overlocker program at BERNINA is awesome. Years and years of experience, and she does quite a trunk show. Pam, I have to think of her last name. So, good question though.
When you have the 3 layers, do you use stabilizer?
No. Your batting becomes your stabilizer. That's a great question.
Okay. And have you ever used decorative stitches on wool applique?
I have, and I would highly recommend it. Highly. You can use a size 12 thread and a needle, and it's really awesome to use with wool applique. And I actually mix wool and cotton fabrics together all the time. So I mix cotton and wool thread all the time too. So yes, I would highly recommend it. You're going to want to make sure that you have a dual feed engaged, or you're working with your walking foot on those, because you do working with a little bit heavier weight fabrics, and you just want to make sure everything's going to feed through evenly. So, but yeah, highly recommend. Highly. All right. So, I'm not sure if I really need to do this, but it just makes it, I just want you to see how easy this is. So, most of you know this already, but if there's any new sewers, I want to make sure that you know. So when you are changing your thread, you are going to have your foot up, which disengages your tension devices. And then you're going to pull your thread down. So that kind of flosses your tension devices at the same time. I'm going to say something that is, I'm going to tell you is totally, completely my personal opinion. It may not be correct due to technology, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I only use this pin for these spools. People get into cross wound and whatever wound, and I don't. I just look at the spool. So if you have a spool like this, I put it on this way. I use a cap that locks that spool in place. I do not use this very often, if ever. So what that does is that it, see how the thread is moving and not the spool. You see what I mean? This is, if you're moving, if you have your spool here, to get my thread off the spool, I have to move my spool, which adds tension to my stitching. I don't know who taught me this. I learned it a long time ago. So this spool goes on this way. I make sure I'm going through my tensioning devices okay. Sorry. Come through here. Here. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about my BERNINA is my threader. And I know I have way too many customers that come in and say, I don't use it. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. So this is a 12 weight thread, which is not supposed to work with the threader. but I get it to work. So can everybody operate their threader? Please tell me you can, because it's one of the best things that happens with BERNINA is these threaders. And the 790 is an automatic threader, which is, does not get much better than that. All right, so I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna pick a Kaffe one because I like Kaffe. I'm gonna do, yeah, we'll do that one. All right, I have a 20D foot, which means I have my dual feet engaged, which I forget, and it will cause problems, but it's great when it works. All right, and I use the power button when I'm doing these samples. This is 12 weight in the top. This is 100 needle and 50 weight in the bottom. Don't use a bobbin thread. 60 weight, 80 weight, I do not do that when I'm using a 12 weight thread. I think the span of thread size is too big, and it can lead to some problems. Again, if you're successful with it and it works for you, keep going. Doesn't get much easier than that. And it's cut my thread. Good, huh? All right, so I would encourage you to do some stitch outs, encourage you to look at some of those decorative stitches that we have and how you can use them. I have this crazy quilt that I've been working on for quite a long time that has to do with hankies, and I forgot to bring it back today. And so I took hankies, cut them in these with the Creative Grids crazy quilt, and I decided I was going to make my crazy quilt only with machine stitching. And on the machine stitching, I have pattern stitches in size 12, I have pattern stitches in size 50, I have cotton, which is what I really like, I have some polyester threads. And you can do all of this with your machine. It doesn't mean hand stitching's bad, it just means it's a different way of doing it. And that just broadens our ability to be creative and see beyond the norm. So we're asking you again to take those materials and use them in a different way and experiment with them. And you'll find something that will work or click for what you're working on now. So, anybody have any other questions?
One last question. Do you use the same color or a similar color in the bobbin?
Great question. I use similar as close as I can get it because it just works better that way. If I have a little bit of bobbin thread on the top, I don't see it, I don't worry about it. So that's a great question, good one. I do coordinate my threads on my bobbin thread and my top thread. All right. Okay, so this will be posted in YouTube along with all of our other Facebook Lives and information, Artistic Artifacts YouTube channel. We do have a weekly newsletter. Please sign up on our website if you have not gotten it. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. What else? I know I'm forgetting something. We're okay. There's lots of ways to meet us if you don't live close to us. But if you do live in the Washington metropolitan area or visiting the Washington metropolitan area, please come visit us here in Alexandria. And we would love to see you in the 3D is what everybody says. Oh, I get to see you in 3D. So we would like to see you there too. So thanks for being part of our creative minds here, and we will see you next Saturday.